Warning: some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everyone, Nyanstar here, and I'm a high school dropout. Now I know that you may be assuming several things about me based on that, but I can assure you that this isn't going how you think it will. Also, you should stay in school if you can help it. School is important no matter how much you hate it. For those of you who haven't seen my seizure video, I have a history of having seizures at school. Doctors couldn't explain why, and our only theory is that it might be related to anxiety attacks. You can watch that video if you want to hear more about this in depth. In 9th grade, towards the end of the year, I was in English when I felt dizzy and had to sit on the floor. I went to the nurse's office and I got sent home. I missed a whole week of school and had to go to the hospital. They just told me to drink more water and sent me home. I made it through the year, but I was really nervous going into the next year. Another thing I was nervous about was running into my ex-friend A. I'll go more into this in about 6 weeks from this video, but in short, over the last year I started realizing they were a toxic friend, and over the summer I officially broke things off. However, I was really worried about running into them. His friends were also the kind of girls who'd fight you and rip out your hair if they didn't like you. That's not an over-exaggeration either. One girl at my school got scalped, so that was another reason I didn't want to go back to school. So my schedule for this year was science, art, social studies, English, math, and Japanese. There was a learning center in town that offered higher-end classes, mostly healthcare related since we had a huge hospital and university in town. But they offered Japanese, and a second language class was required, so I signed up as soon as possible. The class was also a double class, meaning it was always 2 hours regardless of the day. I was also in Honors English and AP Social Studies. On my first day, things went okay. I was so nervous I wrote an entire Google Doc of everything that could go wrong. But all that went wrong was that the learning center buses never showed up. We had to take a long bus ride to get there, but they just didn't show up that day. So I just hung out in my former gifted teacher's class playing Fate Grand Order. The next day everything went smoothly, and I got to go to my Japanese class. I was very nervous about having a seizure there because it was such a hassle getting there. I had fun though. We watched Kiki's Delivery Service in Japanese at the end of class. We got driven back and even got to leave school early. Definitely a bonus so I didn't have to see A when walking home. I remember being so upbeat and happy that day at how well things went. But our family motto is, nothing ever goes right for us. The next day, I went to AP Social Studies and immediately ran into A. I guess they weren't there on the first day, but it made things extremely awkward. This class also had arranged seating, so the teacher could see who was absent that day. She said this very clearly on the first day, but when she got to my table, I was the only one there. No one at my table wanted to sit with me, and the teacher had to yell at them to sit in their seats. These were people I knew and was on good terms with, by the way, so that was also awkward. Near the end of class, though, I started getting really dizzy. I tried to tough it out, but eventually asked to be excused. I sat outside until class ended and went home again. Anyway, I ended up staying home for 2 weeks. I kept getting up in the mornings and be too anxious to walk out the door. My dad would take my brother to school and come back to me curled up on the couch. After the 2 weeks, we were called into the truancy officer's office. Try saying that 5 times fast. I told her about my anxieties and depression, and she was pretty understanding. I was dropped out of all my higher level classes and was given new electives. So my schedule was science, art, social studies, math, English, typing, and ceramics. I also had to meet with the school therapist. I had that meeting on Monday and missed school the next 2 days. I went to school on Thursday, but on Friday I had to go home early. Apparently someone had decided to call in a scooting threat, but the school didn't take it seriously. I didn't know this until the kids in my first period talked about it. They would scream whenever the door would open as a joke, and that didn't help my anxiety at all. So I started panicking and getting dizzy, and was sent to the nurse. I explained to them that it felt like I was gonna have a seizure. I went to them at the beginning of the year, and I expected they'd call my dad and send me home like last time. But instead, I got handed a packet of cheese crackers, and they told me to just calm down and go back to class. I was hyperventilating and crying. I asked for them to call my dad, and they said they would. After I went back to class. I laid down and I texted my dad to come get me. They told me to put my phone away and started ignoring me to get me to leave. When my dad showed up half an hour later, they got so mad that I went behind their backs. My dad was going to the gym right next to the school, so he took me with him, and I sat miserably on the couch in front, just eating my crackers and crying. That was the day I learned that I couldn't rely on the nurse's office to help me anymore. We didn't have school on the next Monday, and I missed school on Tuesday and Wednesday. But when I went to school on Thursday, my teacher said my name didn't show up on her registry. I went to the office and they told me I had been dropped from all my classes. At my school, you were automatically dropped from a class if you missed 10 days, so about 2 weeks. But since I met with the truancy officer and changed my schedule, I assumed that it reset my count. My dad had to come to the office to re-enroll me. That also meant I couldn't participate in typing class that day because my login wouldn't work. I missed the day after that, but on Monday I had to take a blood draw at school. You see, we had a school-based health center sponsored by the big hospital, which had the therapist and actual nurses. The truancy officer and counselor signed me up for a blood draw to figure out what was wrong with me. I met my new social studies teacher that day and explained to her that I had been sick, and apparently she thought I was just skipping her class. I had to leave halfway through class to go get my blood drawn though. They laid me down and tried to draw blood from my left arm, but as it turns out, I was so panicked over it that they couldn't get any blood. I started passing out, but they waved something that smelled like rubbing alcohol in front of me, and it brought me back. They switched to my right arm and got a whole vial of blood. They tried to get a second, but I only gave a little. They warned me that it might not be enough and that we might have to do it again. They wrapped me up and I just hung out in the office until lunch. The hand sanitizer thing fell off the wall while I was there, and it scared the hell out of me. During lunch, I tried to meet my new English teacher, but her class was closed. Found out later that A was in that class. And I went to my ceramics class where the teacher told me that the class was loud and I should find a different class. I had a lot of homework to catch up on, and I texted B, my best friend, about it on the following Tuesday. They said, "I believe in you," and that was the last time I ever heard from them. I missed another Wednesday, and then on Thursday I got my blood draw results. Luckily they had enough blood from me. I was low on a hormone that I can't remember the name of, but they told me it was nothing to worry about. They said that they couldn't find anything wrong with me, which is just the story of my life. As much as I wanted to stay in school, I was really struggling with everything that was going on. After a week of not going to school, my dad and I talked and we came to the conclusion that I wasn't going back to school. On the 20th, we had another meeting scheduled with the truancy officer, and this time she was a lot less friendly. She told me I didn't have any real problems because I wasn't an adult, mocked me for wanting to be a freelance artist, and threatened to report us to Child Protective Services. I tried explaining myself again, but she pretty much told me, "I don't care if you want to kill yourself, I want you to be in class." She ended up just cementing to me that it was better to leave the school. We went to a food drive thing after that in the cafeteria, and I never went back. Well, that's technically not true. I went back in early November to turn my textbooks back in and get my art portfolio. I brought my ID with me because I thought that they'd ask for it when I turned my books in, but I just said I was moving to another school and they just accepted it. We went to my art class when the bell rang and there was a sub there, which is nice because I didn't want to face my art teacher and tell him what happened. But the sub was nervous that I was just gonna steal art and asked for my ID. Not what I expected to need it for, but I got my portfolio and never stepped on campus again. Despite leaving my high school, I didn't want to drop out. I wanted to go to online classes instead. We didn't have a computer, but my sister was willing to let me visit to take classes on hers, like a boarding school. I asked my dad to look for schools, since he was the one who had to enroll me, but he just wouldn't. He would say he would, get distracted, and months later I was still out of school. He's the one who would yell at me for being a disappointment for dropping out, and yet he wasn't doing anything to help me. When the pandemic hit and classes went online, I still didn't get enrolled because I wanted to catch up, and Zoom classes just creeped me out. And my dad still didn't help out. By 2021, I realized that nothing was gonna get done, and I wasn't gonna graduate in 2022 when I was supposed to. So that's when I started studying for my GED, which is like a high school diploma for those who didn't finish high school. I got my ID when I was 17 and just had to wait to turn 18 before I could take the test. But I was so ready. Then a month before I turned 18, my dad forced us to move to Texas. Texas has a requirement for the GED that New Mexico doesn't, so I was screwed. And even if I did meet that requirement, I've hated being in Texas so much that I don't want Texas to be printed on my GED. I talked more about why I hate Texas in this video. To this day, I still don't have a GED, but maybe one day I can go back to New Mexico and finally get one. In short, I was so physically and mentally sick that I just couldn't handle school anymore. I'm still upset that I don't have a diploma or anything like that. It's also made it hard to look for work, on top of my agoraphobia. If you want to support me, be sure to subscribe. This is my last school stories video, so I'm sorry it ended like this. Thank you to everyone who kept up with the whole series up to this point. And if you want to hear me talk about school more, there's a whole playlist. Have a great day, everyone. Bye!